Raider. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, guys.
We're on our way here. We are excited, bro.
The Las Vegas Raiders select
the countdown officially on. Welcome to the Raiders 2021 Draft Special, brought to you by Cox here inside our Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center. I am Erin Coscarelli, and I brought my friends alongside me. Eric Allen, my six-time Pro Bowler. How about my All-Pro tackle and Lincoln Kennedy here to talk all things silver and black draft. A lot to get to on the show today, gentlemen. First of all, how are you? I hope you brought your Mike Mayock GM caps.
Definitely, left in the bag, but yeah, I have mine.
Well, I need a bigger one because I tried it on and it doesn't fit, so I need a bigger cap.
We'll get you both of them.
Okay.
But a lot to get to on the show for you folks at home. Here, of course, is what's on tap for you today. Predicting number 17 overall. We've got some thoughts on what we think the Raiders may be doing with their first selection, and of course, we're going to break it down, key in on some of the top draft prospects here for Las Vegas. And how about last year's first round pick? We're talking Henry Ruggs. Stick around for that. And of course, a one-on-one with third-year safety Johnathan Abram. You're not going to want to miss that. So much and more for you folks at home. But of course, we got to talk about free agency. The Raiders were just a little bit active in free agency. And how do you guys think that that's going to actually impact the draft? Lincoln, I'm curious to get your take first.
Well, I was impressed that the Raiders were active very early.
Okay.
And the fact that that's key when it comes to free agency. And I was impressed the fact that they went over defensive line. They created a lot of depth with that defensive front. They've signed a lot of defensive tackles, addressed that rush EA, and I think they're going to be better. And I think that's going to be a big thing for the rotation throughout the season.
Yeah, unbelievable opportunities for this free agency period to be able to get just outstanding defensive line help, because that helps the overall defense. When you're talking about someone like Ngakoue, guy who can continually get after the quarterback, he's a proven guy in and outside the locker room. That leadership, okay, is really what this football team needs defensively. I think he's going to provide that as soon as he steps in the building.
Yeah, the pass rush was an issue for the Raiders last season. 21 sacks, that was fourth fewest total of any team. And like you said, Link, early, they took care of business. They brought on Gus Bradley. They brought on a guy Gus knows very well in Ngakoue. Fixing that pass rush was a top priority for the Raiders.
Well, because when you play a cover three, it's essential that your front four generate pressure, so you don't have to bring as many blitzes. You want to contribute that to the coverage, the backside of the coverage, and EA knows all about it. You've got to get that general pressure with the front four.
Yeah, it's so important, Gus Bradley, to come over, and he has been so critical in the National Football League as far as getting numbers. And we're talking about Ron Milas, also the defensive back coach, has done an outstanding job of developing talent. And those are the kind of things you need on a coaching staff, being able to get in, really get the process going, and then have the development of your young players, knowing that this football team is very young defensively.
Development, young, something Gus Bradley is familiar with. And of course, he's got that 17th overall pick. It is debate time coming up next. Eric and Link are going to decide, are the Raiders going to go offense or defense with that 17th pick? Stick around. We'll talk about it next.
The Raiders Draft Special is brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders.
All right, welcome back here inside our Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center. The Raiders entering the draft with a good amount of picks, 8 total, including 4 in the top 80 overall selections. In fact, the Raiders have back-to-back picks in the third round, courtesy of a Rodney Hudson trade. And so with that, let's take a look at some mock drafts around the NFL. Here are the top 5 guys. I want to get your take here on the panel. Here are the top 5 players experts around the league are projecting the Raiders could pick up in the draft. Take a look. EA, I'll start with you. Where are you leaning towards on this? There's a couple guys offensively and defensively.
Obviously, the draft is just kind of this changing process over and over, but I'm looking at number 3. I mean, all the measurables you would want. Micah Parsons out of Penn State, inside linebacker, great speed, great film. When you watch this young man, can do almost anything. He's kind of that central piece in the middle of the football field. I doubt that he would be there, and if he is there, you gotta kind of jump on him because I think he's one of those guys in this draft that is clearly the best at his position and projects to be one of those guys who plays for you for 10 or 11 years as an outstanding football player. So again, if he's there, and I don't think he will be, got to take him because he's just so special.
He opted out of the 2020 season due to COVID. That's not going to affect his draft stock.
Not him. No, some other guys, but not him.
Yeah. Well, did you notice out of those 5 picks, 3 of them were offensive linemen?
Yeah.
Kind of shows you the level of importance that we need to address here. Offensive line. And look, the fact is you've got 3 good ones. This is a very deep draft for offensive linemen. And I don't know if the Raiders are going to go there at 17.
Right.
But you've got a number of guys that were on that screen, whether it was Tucker, it was Darrisaw. You've got guys that are plug-and-play guys because the Raiders need to address the right tackle position. They've tried with free agency. They've tried to plug and play other guys. They need to address it. You've signed your left tackle, Colton Miller. He's your franchise tackle. You've got to shore up that right tackle position. And that's why those mock drafts had 3 guys offensive line. I don't know if you guys noticed that. We're talking about linebackers and everything else, but they had 3 offensive linemen up there. Level of importance, I'm just saying.
Sure. Well, and like you made a good point. There is depth there in the offensive line world, so perhaps maybe that'll be something the Raiders will address in the 2nd or the 3rd round.
Yes, and that's important because the aspect of having a coach who has proven he can develop players.
Right.
Tom Cable is one of the best in the league at doing that. And that's really critical that you can get a 3rd, a 4th round guy. Those are the kind of guys you build your team around. And if you have a coach who can develop those kind of players, who wants a specific type of guy, either it's long arms or you're over 300 pounds, whatever the case may be, Tom Cable has proven he can be successful with guys that fit his mold.
And a little added tidbit, knowing this system, Gruden's system, this is an offensive line-friendly system. You don't have to, it's not a lot of exposure. They have ways of protecting, whether it's a chip or a tight end. They can protect that young offensive lineman to where you're not necessarily exposing them to some of the perennial pass rushers that are in the league. So this is a offensive line-friendly system with Cable's development as well.
Well, and people were, maybe some fans freaking out a little bit about all the changes that happened to the offensive line, but we only had that offensive line, that projected offensive line, for a total of 3 snaps last season. So Tom Cable really was the man at handling all the adversity that happened in the offensive line, whether it was an injury to Trent Brown or dealing with Richie Incognito. So with that, let's take a look at the 1st round as a whole. What do you guys think when you take a look? Here is the 2021 1st round draft order. Do you see some movement potentially happening? I mean, Link, what about you?
Well, I would say everything hinges on number 3, what the 49ers do, because them trading up into that position leads people like myself to believe they're going to go after a quarterback. It's which quarterback. There are 5 quarterbacks that are projected to go in the 1st round, and there are a number of teams that need. So whatever the 49ers do will feed into what Atlanta does, so on and so forth. The great thing for the Raiders at 17, EA and EC, is the fact that you're going to have some top 10 picks fall because there is such a frenzy for quarterback. If the 49ers, just whatever choice they make, there are going to be other teams like Denver, like New England, like Carolina, possibly Chicago, trying to jump into that position, lobbying to get trades. So this has pushed all those other great picks back.
Yeah, and it's all the process of how you respond to the quarterbacks. And it's all about the quarterbacks in this draft early on. And Link is right. At number 3, the San Francisco 49ers, thinking, hey, Mac Jones. But if Mac Jones is not picked and they go with a Trey Lance or someone else, then that gives those teams who may have thought they weren't going to get their guy the ability to be able to move up. And I'm not sure that's going to impact the Raiders so much because I think right now, obviously, we're set at quarterback, don't need a quarterback. So if a team calls and is willing to kind of move around, you just have to figure out your recruiting process, how that went and how that process has gone from, basically the end of the college football season up until now. You got to really look at your board and see, hey, is it worth me moving down or moving because team wants to come up and get this quarterback that no one thought they were going to be able to get.
And it happens every year. That's
Yes,
what makes
it
the
does.
draft so much fun. There is zero predictability about it. Teams moving up, trying to move down, trying to hedge. That's what's
All
fun
about the quarterback.
about
Absolutely.
draft
Yeah.
day. All right, coming up next, how about some player breakdowns? Eric Allen, Lincoln, they are going to spill the tea on who they believe the Raiders will be focusing in on. That's next.
I thought Jeff Heath did a good job last year. Jeff's been in the league several years. We're always looking for competition. I think the free safety position in the draft this year, I think there's some good players through the first 3 or 4 rounds. And then after that, I think you got to target some guys that might be corners, might be nickels, be a little bit creative. But, we've grinded this whole defensive back class pretty hard, just like every other position.
So we know the big offseason focus for the Raiders was the defense. They went after it in free agency. So what does our cornerback Eric Allen believe the Raiders are now focusing on in the draft? How about time for EA's scouting report? What's up, EA?
Hey, nothing much. Definitely here. A target and a great interest here are these 3 safeties, the top 3 safeties, I think, in this year's draft. Of course, you have Andre Sisco from Syracuse. You have Jamar Johnson from Indiana. But who I want to focus on, Trayvon Mooring of TCU. Let's roll this tape right here. Outstanding. What you need job description for this situation here is a deep safety, a post safety, someone who feels comfortable in the middle of the football field. Here we're going to target and circle our guy. First, you have to be able to diagnose the defense and offense, understand what's going on. You need that great range. And here we see range, the length of body. Look at that, up and getting the ball. Outstanding job of diagnosing, processing information quickly, and making sure you make a big move. Again, one time here, and he sees this over and over in film. Great job of transitioning out the cut, making a play on the ball. Terrific ball skills. So everything you see in film is outstanding here. When you look at it, you want to look at the good plays, look at the game tape, and what do you not do so well? And I looked at early on, junior season, not playing very well in the run. We're going to circle here. Here's how you see it. Fix it and show that you have fixed the issues and problems as a safety. Coming downhill, making a one-on-one outside play. Again, Trayvon Mooring is a typical free safety post guy who can get in. Great size. Here's what I like. 6'1", 200 pounds. Really no questions about this young man's ability to be able to play free safety in the National Football League. You love his instincts. You love his impact, his intuition, his instincts of playing the ball in the air are terrific, EC. This is the kind of guy you want roaming the defensive backfield for the Las Vegas Raiders.
I love it when Eric talks about the secondary. You know he's big into smiles. But, Lincoln, I want to bring you in for a moment and respond to what Eric just mentioned. What does a ball-hawking safety do for your defense?
Turnovers. That's what a ball-hawking defender is going to do, and this Raider defense needs turnovers. Look, it doesn't have to be lights out. This offense is good enough to where they're going to be able to score, but you got to create turnovers, and you got to get people in the right place. We haven't had good safety since Charles Woodson, and Rod Woodson, and other guys that I know and played with. These guys were around the ball, and always around the ball, creative, and just like EA said, that they can be in the right place at the right time.
And looking for that compliment to a guy like Johnathan Abram. That's for sure. All right. Well, coming up next, he was selected 9th overall in the NFL draft. Our all-pro tackle, Lincoln Kennedy, shares his scouting report. Which position is he focusing in on? You'll find out next.
I was so nervous and excited at the same time.
Colton there.
My agent told me, hey, the Raiders are on the line. John Gruden's on the line.
Hey, Colton.
Coach Gruden.
Hey, congratulations, man. You want to be a Raider or not?
Yes, sir.
We need your help. I expect you to come in here and make your presence felt right away. We are really excited. Congratulations, man.
I was so excited. I was trying to pull my emotions, trying to keep it straight, and that was huge, to hear him and for him to select me as his first pick was something special. From that point on, our trust was there.
Such a cool moment right there. All right, welcome back here inside our Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center show, brought to you by Cox. EC and the gang back with you. We got EA's take, but now it is time for our tackle. Lincoln, what position do you believe is of high priority for the Raiders to key in on draft day?
EC, EA, like I said, this is my favorite part of the show because we're going to break down offensive line. I think addressing that right tackle position is absolutely key and essential for the Raiders, especially the future. You've got your quarterback, you've got your left tackle, address that right tackle. So I've got a breakdown right here coming up of a guy that I think the Raiders could key on. But I had to show some love initially to Vera Tucker, the Pac-12 guy. We got to get some love for the Pac-12. We see the pedigree that this coaching staff has been affiliated with, and Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama. They do produce good offensive linemen, but the guy I want to key in is out of the ACC, out of Clemson. His name is Jackson Carman. Let's go to the tape. As we go to spot shadow, there are things that you cannot teach that have to take hold on the first level. Spot shadow here, displace the defensive tackle from the B gap to the opposite A gap. So much that the pulling guard comes around and he's out of place because it's such a huge hole. That aggression you can't teach. Scoop block. Working good in space. He's got a tight end on his hip, so watch him. He hits, initial, comes down, hits the linebacker. Look at the hole that's created. The double teams in the place of the hole. These are all familiar plays to the Raiders offense because they do a lot of the same things, especially out of their gun runs. And then the open field athleticism. This is what I love most about Carman. Get in space and know what to do when you get there. Boom. Create the hole, create space for the ball carrier. And one of my favorite plays of all time is counter Trey O. And when you pull around the horn as a tackle, because I used to love it, hit that guy, throw him on his back, talk smack as you're walking back to the huddle. Welcome to the NFL, my young man. This guy is going to be good. And like I said, the Raiders need to address the right tackle spot. You saw him playing left tackle in college. The great thing about this athleticism from this overall crew, you can move him to right tackle. It's an easy adjustment. It's something that the Raiders could use. And more important, that overall ferocity, that athleticism is what the Raiders need at right tackle. So hopefully, EC and EA, they address it in this upcoming draft.
Yep, no surprise, Link. Of course, you went with the offensive line. Not a big surprise there, right? But offensive line play, obviously crucial to a John Gruden-led offense. Let me ask you this. I'm curious your take on this. Right. Because of no combine, because of the NFL restrictions, do you foresee John and Mike maybe relying on their relationships with big schools like Clemson and Alabama to sort of give them a more in-depth scouting report on guys?
That's a great question, EC. And again, that's what it's really all about. You have to have your personal relationships with these coaches. They're on every Saturday. They're a main game. They play against great competition. And again, the coaching that Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, some of these bigger programs continue to have, there's just a great flow, and you've seen the success in many cases of these players transitioning into the National Football League, and that's really what's important is the transition and the trust you have with those head coaches and those positional coaches at these big-time universities. So again, yes, I do believe that because of the lack of on-campus scouting, and your scouts are not able to, last year, we're not able to get on an airplane and go fly to, some part of Mississippi and put eyes on a player. They have to really rely on those relationships they've created over the course of the last 15 years. Mayock was, the kind of guy on NFL Network who was breaking down these guys with position coaches. So he's going to comfortably sit in those meetings.
And you're right. He's going to lean on the ability to know that guys transition well out of those programs like Alabama.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, not all the time, but that's what COVID presented as a challenge, is the lack of information that they're not able to get from a combine. So it'll be interesting how many guys from those big schools end up being on the Raiders draft board.
That's right.
Okay, well, very interesting nonetheless. Coming up next for you guys at home as we focus on this year's draft class, an even bigger priority is going to be seeing major gains from last year's draft class. Who needs to step up from 2020? We're talking about it next. Stick around. this weekend's NFL Draft with some priorities to be addressed. And although they have 8 picks to make some important decisions with, let's not forget just how important last year's draft will be. When you think about the 2020 draft class, other than Henry Ruggs, gentlemen, I want to get your take. Who do you believe really needs to step up in 2021?
Oh, I'm going to go with Arnett. I think Damon Arnett, has come from a program in Ohio State that has proven to get quality cornerback play. His tape was really good when you looked at it coming into last year. I think, obviously, he needs to focus, but availability. Yes. You have to be able to play and practice. And without that training camp and rookie mini camp last year, I thought a lot of these guys are really hurt. So hopefully they're able to take advantage of the situation that presents themselves. They're professionals now. So you get into the building, you get your work in, you break down your own film, so you're able to get in and help this football team, particularly at the corner spot, and have some ball skills. And that's what's most important, I think.
Tom Cable did a great job with juggling this offensive line in spite of injuries and everything else that happened in 2020. John Simpson, it's got to come up big. He really does. It adds to the depth of the offensive line at the guard position because there is a transition of losing a guy like Gabe Jackson to trade, and now it's time for these young guys to step up. He got some time last year. You saw him playing in spots last year, but he needs to take that next step of development because Incognito's a little bit older. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? 1 year older. And you know how it is. He ain't been there. And sometimes the body's not going to be able to hold up as well as it is. So these young guys, especially at offensive line, they're going to get their mouth wet again. They're going to get their taste. When they go in there, they have to show why they are Raiders.
Sure. Denzel Good got signed. Yeah. Another guy, though, out of Clemson, our 3rd-round pick last year, Tanner Muse, wasn't even on the field.
Right, right.
And hopefully expecting to be full strength at training camp this year, but that's a guy.
Add some depth to that linebacker group. And, again, we're looking for sparks out of that linebacker group this year because we have a lot of them, right? So someone has to emerge, like the fact that Nick Morrow's back. So, again, linebacker room is going to be strong, young, a lot of competition there.
Well, that's what Mike Mayock said. He wanted competition at that position. So hopefully can motivate the other guys. But we didn't mention Henry Ruggs, and we are right now. He was selected 12th overall out of Alabama in last year's draft. And one thing we know for sure, the man has some wheels. However, getting the ball was a bit of a challenge for the speedy wideout. Only 2 touchdowns and 26 receptions in 2020. A top priority for the Silver and Black will be getting Ruggs more involved.
2020, a year of firsts. The premiere of professional football in Las Vegas and the year the explosive Henry Ruggs III made his NFL debut.
Oh, it's Henry Ruggs! Henry Ruggs, the speed! He has Henry Ruggs in space, and the speedster takes it into Tampa Bay territory.
Starting off in a new city, just kind of the start of something big, and it gives us momentum moving forward.
Henry Ruggs, this is Coach Gruden with the Las Vegas Raiders. We're thinking about making you the first draft choice in the history of the Las Vegas Raiders. Are you going to do all the things that you told me you're going to do? Just work your ass off and do everything that the job requires? All right, I'm going to turn this pick in. I can't tell you how excited I am, man.
Fresh off the 2020 NFL Draft Combine with the fastest 40-yard dash time.
He made that look easy. 4.28, can of corn.
The Alabama wideout was a highly touted prospect heading into the draft, with blistering speed as his greatest asset.
How many times have you seen this? 75 yards!
In only 3 years for the Crimson Tide, Ruggs caught 98 passes, 24 of them for touchdowns.
Complete Henry Ruggs. Here's one of those plays Gary's talking about. You can forget it. Fastest guy on the Alabama team.
The Raiders selected the fastest player in last year's draft. This guy can flat out fly.
Let's go. Love you, boy. Love you too.
Once joining the Silver and Black, Henry reunited with his former teammate Josh Jacobs. The pair were hungry to etch their names in Raider lore.
Ruggs, man, is dynamic. He's one of the best receivers that I've been around. He's very focused. He comes in, he would use the same hard work and dedication that he had at Bama that he's using here.
Having guys like that complement one another is probably the beginning of really developing a very effective offense.
A big play waiting to happen. Ruggs teased the Raider faithful in his first season in Las Vegas.
Great catch by Ruggs!
The wideout showed off his home run ability in Week 5, grabbing a 72-yard touchdown, his first with the silver and black.
Hauled in, Henry runs, the speed, touchdown!
Propelling the Raiders to their first win at Arrowhead Stadium since 2012.
The Las Vegas Raiders have come into Kansas City, and they have finally ended the losing streak.
Feel good to be back.
And in Week 13, number 11 sealed the deal with a game-winning catch against the New York Jets with just seconds left on the clock.
13 seconds left. Carr puts some air under it. Wide open is Ruggs for the touchdown. Carr and company needed a miracle, and it's the rookie Ruggs.
My commitment is to the team. I'm out here to do a job, and that's to help the 11 guys on the field get a win. You know, when my number's called, I'm going to do what I need to do to help the team out.
With a full NFL season under his belt, Ruggs heads into the 2021 season determined to help make Las Vegas a Super Bowl champion.
Kind of try to visualize the moment, but, you know, it's always going to come back to the same thing. You're playing football, and once we get there, then, you know, I'll embrace the moment, but until then, we got work to do.
Henry has shown some great attributes, some things you love to see, a work ethic and toughness, man. Kid is tough.
Smart, he's a great competitor, and he's really fast. He's really fast, and he's improving.
From Ruggs' perspective, he needs to take it to the next level up. Stronger, better route runner, finish, get both feet down, all those things, and we think he will. I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid.
So interesting, just off camera moments ago, Lincoln, you were saying how the wide receiver position is truly one of the hardest positions as a rookie to transition into the pros because of how physical the corners are. And speaking of corner, EA, let me ask you this. What do you believe in Henry Ruggs? Does he have the ability to be a playmaker in this offense this year? This year?
Not a doubt, not a doubt.
Really? Okay.
Again, we can go back to that first game and against Carolina, lined up at multiple spots, so you know he understands the offense. It's not too big for him. Just great explosiveness in his package. But again, I think what you need to work on is spatial awareness. You're not just going to be able to run by everyone. You have to find holes in that secondary to be able to sit down at times. And then again, the corners are just so good at being able to understand what you do well, and they're going to take that away from you. So you have to have a plan B. And again, I thought he struggled a little bit going forward is being able to have that plan B. But again, what you like is the Jet situation. Had a drop, had some poor plays early, came back, utilized that great speed, was able to win the game basically for the Raiders last year with that great catch at the end of the game. Shows you that Derek Carr is not afraid to go back to you.
Yeah.
So again, that's really important. That's the first game, you saw him in multiple spots. Then the Jet game, you saw him overcome some adversity and make a big catch.
Well, and that was the hardest thing. We were just talking about it. Week 1, he had this stellar standout performance, and then, you know, he kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't on purpose, because the Raiders made a conscious effort to try to get them the ball. Remember that first Kansas City game? How big he came through in Kansas City game? He won over the chemistry with Derek Carr. 50-50 ball, the 72-yard catch, the touchdown pass. They had a one-on-one coverage. So there were a lot of instances where Henry Ruggs showed his greatness, and I think he'll be great in the future to come. But I think Mike Mayock in that last excerpt that we saw hit on a great point. He has to get better at the smaller details. You can't teach speed. You know what he has, a physical awareness. Has to get better in his route running. Has to get better, as Eric's talking about, being in space. And more importantly, he has to get open immediately, because Derek Carr is not going to sit there and hold that ball for him to wait to get him open.
Right. And one thing we can't overlook is his impact on the rest of the team. Nelson Aguilar had a career year. He's off in New England right now, partly because when you go in the game plan, you start having that great speed, you're focused on stopping that speed, something that Lincoln alluded to. Again, other players around you are going to be able to benefit. And I think Nelson Aguilar's year last year was credited a lot to what Henry Ruggs just displays by just walking on the football field.
And he's a guy that's going to open up Darren Waller. Certainly.
Yes.
And
now John Brown.
And now John Brown.
Yeah.
And I think, like you mentioned, you make a great point. This is a guy that's just going to have reps to get better. He just needs more experience. All right. Well, look, we hope big gains from Henry Ruggs. And another guy expected to make a jump in production. We've got a one-on-one with strong safety Johnathan Abram. What does he think about Gus Bradley? That's next.
Here is Ryan. Slant, intercepted on the deflection. Picked off by the Raiders at the 40-yard line. Johnathan Abram on the deflection has his second interception of the season. A big moment for the Raider defense.
When you're one of the most fearsome hitters in the SEC, it's really not a surprise when you get selected 27th overall. The Raiders keyed in on Johnathan Abram in the first round of the 2019 draft with high hopes of him becoming the enforcer of the Raiders defense. Missing almost his entire rookie campaign with an injury, the strong safety struggled last year with some inconsistencies. Eric Allen, you caught up with him. You had a one-on-one. What were your impressions of the young safety in terms of his development and what you thought of him?
Really impressed. I mean, but just by sitting down and speaking with him about what it takes to be a pro and understanding. And again, I'm big on fixing your mistakes. But first you have to realize there's some mistakes, right? So he's in the process of fixing those things. But I think this year in particular is defining his role will be just a great piece to start for him. I mean, you watch him on film and he's just making plays from sideline to sideline. He has such a great impact. And I just think last year just tried to do too much. Sometimes he's in the middle of the football field. Sometimes he's asked to, be over top, cover tight end. I think defining his role in Gus Bradley's defense is going to be critical. And that's one of the reasons why I chose the kid from TCU, not the kid, but the young man from TCU to kind of help him define his role. And I think once you do that, I mean, he is just, the sky's the limit for this young man.
There's no doubt, but one of the things that you said that I keyed in on, EA, was how to be a pro. And part of being a pro is you have to be available.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? The ferocity and the attention to details, as Eric is talking about, is essential for the development of a young man. And of course, the Raiders knew what they were getting when they drafted him out of Mississippi State, that ferocious hitter, okay? They know that. You can have that, but you have to be available. So you can't hit somebody so hard where you take yourself out of the game.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And we saw that flying around. I think that's the key. Also, the fact that he's wearing number 24. Now, in Raider lore, that number carries a lot of weight.
Big shoes.
A lot of pressure. New city, new team, new opportunity,
defensive
new
coordinator
defensive
now.
coordinator. A lot of opportunities for him to shine. But EA hit the nail on the head. You got to learn how to be a pro and all that it encompasses. That's a big step for that young man in year 3.
I cannot wait for your one-on-one with Johnathan Abram. Roll the tape.
With the 27th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select Johnathan Abram, defensive back.
Newton slides right, able to escape Furl, and gets picked off. It's intercepted. They're so high on this strong safety out of Mississippi State.
Little end-around action. Roberts, and he is upended at the 50. Marvelous defensive play by Johnathan Abram.
Take us back to that 2019 draft for you at the house. Who was there for you?
Just pretty much all of my family, my mom, dad, all of my aunts and uncles and things like that. I had my daughter there. It was a wonderful moment, honestly. I was beyond happy to get that call. But it was funny though, and I remember talking to my mom about this. I remember Coach Gruden called me literally the day before the draft and was like, "Hey, I'm going to draft you." And I'm like, "All right, we'll see." And truth be told, he did exactly what he said he was going to do.
2nd and 7, another carry from McCaffrey. At the 47-yard line, Johnathan Abram coming up from his safety position.
We've seen so many great things from you. You're so versatile. I mean, you can play in the box, you can play in the deep third, you're making picks, you're making big hits. Talk to us about what you expect from yourself coming up in year 3. How you're going to make sure that you're that overall player getting this football team to the next level?
Overall, my biggest thing is just consistency, I've done a lot of things at a high level and I've done a lot of things at a low level. So, my biggest thing is just finding that mid-level and, just staying there and continue to rise from there, no drop-off. That's my biggest goal for this year, not having any drop-off, not having any, explosive plays. Eliminating explosive plays and then making big explosive plays, in that order and not the opposite.
Talk to us a little bit about leadership-wise. Once you get drafted, you're here with the Raiders. We know this is a young football team. Talk to us about that process of how you, on and off the field, are a leader.
The biggest thing I try, even with being a leader, it's hard, and I didn't know what kind of a leader or what what type of leader I needed to be coming in. So, I felt like coming in, I just needed to just come in, put my head down and work. And, of course, I got a bright personality, so, I tend to talk and get excited. But, now it's pretty more shaping up into, what Gus calls a servant leader, helping everybody with no hidden agendas.
Hey, I told y'all, we're going to wake up tomorrow. We're going to wake up with a W.
Let's talk about Gus Bradley, what he's going to bring this year to this football team.
Oh, I can't. I cannot wait. We have our first meeting today. I can't wait for these other guys to get a chance to meet him. He's probably, one of the most special people I've met in my life. He has a way with words, he kind of, and I told him this other day, I'm like, you just touch people and you don't even try to. Like, he's so deep, but I mean, for this team, he's going to get, I feel like he's going to get this defense going. He's going to get us ready to play. We got some guys, we just brought in some new guys up front, so we're going to pack a punch up front, D-line, get those guys going. We're going to do a really good job covering in the back end, so, we're going to be in a lot of zone, 3-man, so 3 deep. So we have our eyes on the ball, so hopefully, a lot more turnovers, a lot more big plays from the defense. I want to score on defense this year. That's the #1 goal. I want to lead the league in NFL touchdowns for defense.
That's awesome, man. And lastly, for me here, man, why are you here? I mean, who was the one person in your mentorship or growing up in high school or college gave you, that encouragement to be here in the National Football League?
Honestly, I can't even give the credit to just one person. Most people, want to feel like they've done this alone. I didn't do this alone. I had a lot of people who helped me along the way, gave me a lot of great advice. I learned from a lot of other people's scars who came before me. I knew what not to do from watching them. So I have to dedicate pretty much everybody who's been in and out of my life. Everybody had a factor along the way, no matter if it was small or large. You meet people every day, they're either going to be a lesson or a loss. And even that loss, it eventually becomes a lesson. It's a lesson and a loss.
Man, you keep up the great work. Excited to see you in year 3 for this Las Vegas Raiders football team. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate you guys for having me.
The 86th annual NFL Draft kicks off April 29th in Cleveland, Ohio, as we bring you our Raiders Draft special. Erin Coscarelli, Eric Allen, Lincoln Kennedy back with you. Gentlemen, this has been a very fun show, and it's almost over. But with that, let's take a look at some topics around the league. The teams with the first 2 overall picks also have a couple of rookie head coaches. So let's debate what team you think has a brighter future. Trent Baalke, Urban Meyer, Robert Saleh, Joe Wilson. What do you guys think in terms of Jags and Jets that has maybe the brighter future? And we presumably think Trevor Lawrence is going to go to the Jags.
They can't blow that.
That would be hard to do.
Urban Meyer is interesting. Urban Meyer's situation is interesting. It's been really successful at every college stop he's been at. It's been an outstanding coach. We know about the health issues off the field with his passion for winning. And then you have a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who's been the #1 guy since, before he was born, basically. Right. He's going to be the guy, come in and save your franchise. And I think sometimes we can get out of hand by comparing him to, the top guys. If he turns out to be a Justin Herbert, that'd be phenomenal, right? Justin had just such a outstanding rookie year. So that's kind of what I'm saying for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hopefully they can get a guy who can really create just this winning attitude in their locker room, and both him and the head coach have some really good success there. So I'm hoping and praying for Urban Meyer. I love him as a coach, and he's really done an outstanding job, and hopefully their quarterback comes up and plays big.
I think the Jaguars were just a quarterback away from making an impression. They had some good pieces on their team prior to Urban joining the coaching staff in this pick. So they were in position, to me, to just make that natural step. Now, they can't blow it. Trevor Lawrence is everyone's foregone conclusion, the #1 pick overall. The Jets, however, work in progress. Coach Saleh has his work cut out for him, in my opinion, because the one thing that he has to do, and we saw that last year as this team sort of fell apart, win over the locker room. Got a lot of work to do to win over the locker room. The Jets need a lot of help. If they can mess it up at quarterback, but I hope they don't. And New York is such a very pressure market.
Sure.
You know, in the media field, you know how it is
Yeah.
when it comes to reflection of the team. So there's a lot of pressure there. But they got to get their identity has to be created with the quarterback position, and that's where it goes.
You know what? I think that's where it is. It's the identity. Like New York Jets, what are you? Who are you? Are you a defensive-oriented football team? Are you an offensive-oriented football team? They used to find a way to get that identity.
Is that the first key to it, is to try to figure out what your
Yes,
identity is,
I think
and then
it is.
you go
Sure.
from there?
That's
Okay.
right.
Well, Jets, you got your work cut out for you.
Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
But, the Jets got rid of Sam Darnold, and he's in Carolina. We talked a little bit about that. My next question for you guys is biggest free agent signing this season in terms of the NFL as a whole. What was that for you?
Well, I think it's Yannick Ngakoue for us because obviously it's all about the pass rush, and the pass rush helps the secondary, helps the linebackers. It really increases your opportunity to play in the postseason when you have someone who has had the impact on teams that he has had. And Ngakoue has done an outstanding job of being someone who's versatile, but also someone who continues to do the same thing over and over, and that's getting pressure on the quarterback.
9 sacks on average a year the man does.
That's going to open everyone else up
Absolutely.
on the defensive line.
What about the quarterback carousel that we've seen around the NFL? Now, as much attention as I played to the NFL, it paid all-season free agent signing, I've not seen this much movement, whether it's draft positioning with the upcoming draft or just a quarterback. And of course, you have potentially 5 quarterbacks that can go in the first round. I think that's sort of unprecedented, if my history serves me correctly, too. Right. So that's been the biggest mark that has set an impression with me.
Carson Wentz, Goff, the Rams trying to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of movement there. Carousel is a great word to use. Draft day, best memory. Do you guys have a favorite memory from draft day? You guys are laughing because I guess you do.
Well, mine was so long ago,
Ancient history.
1988. Wow. I mean, just the pressure, that you feel leading up to draft day. And it really wasn't draft day. It's just a process. And again, working out and getting ready for the combine. You go to the combine, you have a good combine, you come back to your campus, you have your pro day. So that whole process, so many questions. And I was fortunate enough to be on a football team where we had probably 4 or 5 guys who were selected in the first 2 rounds. So it was just, I think about that, and I just think about such good times. And we always kind of link up around this time with Randall McDaniel, who's a Hall of Famer, of course, played with the Erin Cox, was a first-round draft choice for the Rams. So it's just great memories of the draft.
I went through so many shirts, and I was picked number 9 overall, but I went through a ton of shirts. So I was fortunate to come off the board early, but it was nerve-wracking because you didn't know where you were going to go. And so you had to be prepared for anything. So it was a nervous time, a joyful time, but you know what? Your dreams come true when you get that phone call. Doesn't matter where you go, it's exciting.
A lot of legends will be made on draft day with quite a legacy. And speaking of legacy and legend, we lost a Raider giant in Mike Davis. I know, Link, he was a special man to you.
Yeah, not only a good friend, business partner, good Raider. We were proud alumni of this organization, and we lost a good one. So I'm not gonna tear up on camera. So it's all good. We lost a good one.
I know he meant a lot to you. Yeah. Well, thank you for both of you guys. This has been a really wonderful show, and I think a lot of Raider fans are very excited for what is to come. Number 17 overall pick. Are they going to go offense? Are they going to go defense?
Defense, of course. EC. Let's go.
See about
right.
that.
Whatever. Don't get it wrong.
Don't get it wrong, Raider Nation. All right, well, that'll do it for us here on the show. For Lincoln Kennedy, Eric Allen, I'm Erin Coscarelli. We thank you guys at home for watching, and we will see you next time.
This Raiders Draft Special has been brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Karma Automotive, official luxury EV vehicle of the Las Vegas Raiders.